Alright, so Tarantriss against hard mode Bjorn with no player damage, just these Ukratis boosters. Um, Very difficult to do. I think this was more difficult than the no-hit challenge, hard settings, hard mode, the Chickpea with white gear. So it's probably, I think, the hardest Tower Boss challenge I've done so far, for a couple of different reasons. First, the DPS is quite low when you're using PAL damage only. I don't think there's a lot of PALs that you can do hard mode Bjorn with PAL damage only. This one is relying a lot on Rock Burst damage actually, which when you do hit in melee range, you're doing like 6 times the damage of most other skills, something like that. It depends a little bit. Most of the time you won't hit all, I think it's 32 explosions or rocks or whatever that you can hit. So you see the start of the fight, try to get all those Feybreak warriors stacked up nice next to each other. Normally you would just take them out with a rocket launcher or something like that to hit most of them at the same time. But this way kind of works best if you're doing PAL damage only. Could have done something like Blizzard Spike or these Area of Effect skills to clear them out, but then you end up not using like a very good attack for the remaining fight. And since this is a DPS race, like you could survive for quite a long time with Tarantriss, just dodging around with this spiderweb thing, but really it comes down to this 10-minute timer, where it can be very difficult to put out enough DPS using PAL damage only. So you see their melee range Rockburst, got some melee range Air Blades, wasn't really sure what to use for the third skill actually. I ended up with Air Blade just because it has a very quick animation, so you don't end up being stuck next to Bjorn. I did try a couple of different skills, like Fireball and stuff like that, but you just ended up with this pretty big wind-up animation. So you need something that you can sort of pop between Bjorn skills, just so you can dodge these sort of glacial impacts and stuff like that, because if you do start an attack animation, and you're stuck in it when Bjorn decides to use like Dark Wisp or something like that, Stone Beat also is one of the big ones that hits hard. Double Blizzard Spike. You can see there as well, big Rock Burst hits. The real difficulty is just keeping Tarantriss alive while trying to output maximum Rock Burst damage. I'm not actually sure like how much damage the other two skills do. I feel like Rock Burst is doing like 90% of the damage, so probably would have been a little bit faster if I just kind of ignored Flame Funnel probably. I tried to do this thing where I used the web to pop Flame Funnel while I'm in the air, and that sort of lets me not be standing still for that like 2-3 second wind up thing with the animation. It's a little bit of stuff like that to consider with the cast time for the skill. So Airblade maybe not the best option, but maybe I'll find something in the future that is a little bit better. But Airblade is a really good skill. It's just the cooldown is very short, so it sort of lures you into feeling like you need to use it all the time, when really it's probably better to just kind of run circles until Rock Burst is off cooldown and then prioritize getting a big Rock Burst hit. And also, like, don't stress it. You want to wait for a good window to use the Rock Burst, so it's kind of like as soon as Bjorn pops an attack, you need to dodge it and then pop a Rock Burst, or else he will jump back. So you can sort of rush it. And then that was another bit as well. That was a struggle, that Rock Burst and Stone Beat both do this like shaky ground animation thing, or at least if you have that setting on with camera shake and stuff like that. So sometimes I would think that Tarantriss was winding up a big Rock Burst, and Tarantriss just got Stone Beated to death. And then you also have some attacks that knock you off your mount. So Tarantriss is a smaller PAL, and there is a part of the game code, or whatever you say, that checks the PAL's size when they get hit by a skill, and some PALs get knocked over if they're too small. And Tarantriss counts as a small PAL, so this is not something that happened with, let's say, Ashermain or something like that you would get knocked off the mount. But it does happen with Tarantriss with quite a lot of attacks. Like, if you're fighting, let's say Lily, a lot of those like Spine Vines and Circle Vines and stuff like that will just knock you off the mount. So that's something that can be a bit of an issue. Glacial Impact and Stone Beat, Dark Wisp, Double Blizzard Spike are probably the big skills to avoid against Bjorn. And then a lot of his attacks are dark. Tarantriss is dark, so you can tank them. Not a big issue. Running Vampiric, so you can heal up in between. Got the healing potion as well on the spider, as well as the Mammoth Curry. And then the 4 dark boosters in these little birds here. So quite a lot of stuff. Oh, dodging the Aqua Burst. And that's the stone beat. So you can see it took, that's half the health right there. So if you're just missing a little bit of health, you get hit by that stone beat, it's gonna die. Not great, but most of the skills can be dodged when you're mounted. It's just if you get stuck in this animation time. So something like Blast Cannon and Beam Slicer actually ended up having a little bit of a longer wind up, and that made it hard to dodge when using those. That's also something to watch out for as well. If your pal is really close to Bjorn, when he winds up Glacial Impact, he won't jump. He just straight up does the damage and lands. No jump animation. So that's also something to watch out for if you're thinking about timing, like the withdraw dodge with his jump. He won't jump in melee range. And then another thing here is this bug with if you withdraw dodge or mount up and cancel an attack, the pal will unlearn that attack until you reselect it. I don't know how long it's been now since we saw Tarantriss use Flame Funnel on its own. But that's just that bug. You'll notice it, I think, the most noticeable one for me is when using Libro. If you're dodging, withdraw dodging with Libro and she forgets Nightmare Bloom, it's a pretty obvious one. But I'm not sure for how long this has been going on. It's something I didn't really care about resetting it this fight, just because if Tarantriss, I can still use the Rockburst when mounted, or I mean the Flame Funnel when mounted, and then when I dismount, it's kind of nice that it forgot Flame Funnel in this attempt, because I just wanted to Rockburst really, when I send it out like that. Otherwise it would have used Flame Funnel first, and then Bjorn does his jump back, so this way kind of ends up being decent. But if it had forgotten Rockburst, which happened a couple of attempts, then you're kind of like, you have to run in behind a pillar or something, and deselect Rockburst in the skill menu and then select it again mid-fight. That can be a bit of an issue, but also losing Flame Funnel, I mean, as mentioned, Rockburst is just so much damage. I think even if, like here, Flame Funnel is super effective, Rockburst is probably still doing, like, the majority of the damage. Probably still like 5 or 6 times more damage than an entire Flame Funnel wave. So maybe I should have just ignored Flame Funnel instead of like trying to pop it on cooldown while doing this like jumping spider thing. But just kind of feels cool to do this trick right there. But I probably would have been better off just ignoring Flame Funnel and only doing Rockburst and maybe some filler air blades. But Flame Funnel just seems to work out really well. You can pop it while you're in the air, and then those orbs will sort of home in. There were some other skills that I tried, like Wall Splash, Beam Slicer as mentioned, but those skills, just aiming them when mounted, didn't seem to work very well. There are a couple of skills that just don't home in like that. So something like Diamond Rain and Thunderstorm kind of home in. Wall Splash tended to miss. Beam Slicer also missed a lot. You sort of had to choose if you wanted to hit the beam or the blasts, and that's a lot of damage lost when you're using Beam Slicer. So yeah, you can see the timer is winding down. There is still time left on the clock, so I could have played it a little bit safer. But you never know, really, when you're gonna start like missing a skill or two. Maybe the pal gets frozen, you need to reset a skill. A big Rockburst hit there as well. So it's all about Rockburst, and we'll kind of see, I guess, how they end up balancing all these attacks. Because currently, as mentioned, Rockburst is dealing like 6 times the damage of the next closest skill against Bjorn. But at the same time, like, it's the same thing with Xenolord and Rio raiding. If they do end up like balancing it by, let's say they nerf Holy Burst and Rockburst, then you can't kill these bosses. So hopefully they just end up buffing everything else to sort of Holy Burst, Rockburst levels, I guess, and then balance around that. Because right now there's clearly like 3 or 5 attacks that you want to be running, and the rest are just kind of terrible. Even like advantages with elements and super effective and everything like that. So Flame Funnel luckily is a very good skill against Bjorn, but I mean, it's only Rockburst and Flame Funnel that are really good. The rest is just kind of filler. But yeah, that's it. A very difficult challenge. Thanks for watching.